Hi, Terry Goodkind here. I've come up with a few um, predictions on where I think the incredible writer, Steven Erikson, is going to go with his new trilogy that's not about elves, that he's planning on releasing first in Europe and then later on in America this year. I think it's called The Dog Is Not Willing. So the first prediction I have is the Malazan army will have a favorable view of their glorious Emperor Malakram. That is my first prediction.
Solid.
My second prediction is the dog that is not willing is Gnaw from the beginning of House of Chains, the one who gets his hip broken and then shows up later in Till the Hounds. I do think the dog who is not willing is Gnaw, and I think he is not willing to not get treats or a belly scratch. Third, my third prediction is that Richard Rao will make an appearance as a side character who will have a great importance on the rest of the series. For those of you who don't know, Richard Rao is the glorious ruler of the Richard Land, found in the novels Wizard's First Rule. I think he will get there by Warren and will be revealed to be an Azathanai later on down the line.
Wow. You heard it here first.
Fourth is that given the events of the Book of the Fallen, people will begin to use the bridge burners as various swear words.
Well, let's go for it then and say what up to everybody else out there, and welcome back to a Malazan video, a Malazan collab. I got really good and kind. My boy Cal back to and actually totally not just random fluke good timing that Erikson put out that first chapter, because we had this plan like a week ago where we were going to talk about just like speculation and what we want to see in the upcoming Witness, and then he has like the Q&A where he dropped a bunch of goodies and the first chapter that came out. So it's like just fortuitous timing and to get Cal here to talk about it. There's none better. Cal, welcome back.
It's always great to be here, Iskar. I will say though that I only read the epigraph that is up on Tor because I was at work when I pulled it up. And so I'm just glad that Finis Buell and Sayings of the Fool is back, being quoted again, but that's basically all that I know about it. I don't use Facebook, so I have no idea what the Q&A was about or anything like that. So I'm gonna be profoundly wrong for the first time. So let's be glad that we're getting this recorded.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll go from there. You can tell me how off I am.
Totally.
Based off of
we'll have it for posterity. So yeah, cheers and thanks. I actually just reread the first chapter again because I was like really into it. So you didn't actually go in and read the first chapter, right?
No, I haven't read any except for the epigraph that's from Sayings of the Fool.
Did you read the prologue from a long time ago?
That was on Facebook.
Okay. So can I spoil that for you or what? You just want to keep that under wraps?
I won't. I've got my forgetting juice, so spoil away.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I thought this was the perfect one to have you on, because it's really like, talking about what nobody knows. It's not like an interpretation of existing texts or anything like that. It's more like, what do we think is going to happen? What do we want to happen? Who do you want to see show up and stuff? And I thought, like, man, you need somebody with a deep knowledge of the books, because and I also thought it was a cool topic just in general, both because the book's coming out, but also like Karsa does seem like kind of a loose end a bit, you know what I mean, at the end of the main series. Like he goes to Darujistan and has all those crazy events, but then that's kind of, he's there for that one gnarly night, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, we don't see anything else after Toll the Hounds except for his night with Munich right before he goes into the Temple of Fener. And so what he's done since then, I mean, we can gather maybe what he wants to do based off of what he said previously. But how he's actually going to accomplish that, we don't know. We do know that he sent Ublala Pung off to the island to go and collect the Tarthanol tribes to be a part of his army. But we don't see what's happened there at all. We don't really know what has happened with him and his daughters. Other than that, they've met at this point. We just know that they've met.
Yep.
So what he's actually up to, not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Based off of the intro 4 chapters into House of Chains, right when he meets Leoman, and he tells him, "Oh yeah, we have this stratified red dust that's in our cliffs, that we scrape out of the cliffs for our blood oil, which is Ototaro, as we found out."
Yeah.
And he says, "We'll never let the Malazan Empire know there's another source of Ototaro, or they're going to bring every army they've got into there to secure it."
Yeah.
So we kind of know that the Malazan Empire already did that in 7 cities. So as an empire, we know probably what their goal is in going into the later on plateau. But what's going to happen when they get there? Now that's up in the air.
Yeah. So, and there's, and it's gnarly because that's exactly what the chapter 1 kind of, the whole prologue and chapter 1 is like kind of laying out that kind of stuff. But, he did this whole I guess there was a new Facebook group or something like that. I forget the name. It was called like Fantasy Sci-Fi Focus or something like that. But he was just in there one day and he was like, "Hey, it's Steven Erikson. Like, if you have any questions," and he just started going off. So I went in there and everybody was like in there. It just happened to be during my lunch break and it was like perfect, just random timing. And so I was in there and we were just asking about stuff, and he was answering about Walk in Shadow. He was answering just about like personal stuff. I asked him if he was going to start traveling again. I asked what did I ask? One of the questions I asked was about whether we would if we could get a Hood Karish courtship romance novella, and he said I can't answer that. So I was like, oh snap.
Okay.
So yeah, if that shows up in Walk in Shadow, everybody, you're welcome. But there was that. Oh, I asked him if he was going to have a reunion with his dad. His dad Sinig or something is his name, Karsa's dad's name.
Oh yeah, Karsa.
Yeah. And he said, I forget what he said. I think he said like read and find out or something like that. So
because in House of Chains, after Karsa leaves, Sinig and Palk sit down to have dinner together, and basically he does the ritual, "I cast you out of my house."
Yeah, right. And cuts the ties.
Blood ties.
Yep.
And like by throwing his food into the fire. I'm not entirely sure what all of that means. I'm sure it's very important to the culture. I'm not entirely sure what all
they
that
don't
means.
Waste food like that, so that's sacrilege or something. Yeah.
And then he says, "Neither of us will live to see Karsa's return."
Yeah.
And so he's like, "So I won't talk to you again. Get out of my house. If I see you again, I'm going to kill you." And then that's it. We never get any more Palk, and we never get any more Sinig. We do, however, see Karsa say, "To my father, I will tell you I am sorry. I was wrong."
Yep.
And then he goes, "My grandfather, I will say nothing," which is like, oof.
Shunned. Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
It's like shorn.
And I would like to see Karsa meet Palk again and just give him the Heboric cold shoulder. You're like, you don't exist. I do not talk to you. To see what Palk does in response to that. Because he's an elder in the village, and the village elders are, esteemed in Templar culture. So
yeah,
I want to see what happens there.
Me too.
I'm secretly hoping he makes it.
Me too, because it's like such an interesting, just to be able to see him kind of get what's coming or whatever. It is, like he's his grandfather's son at the beginning, and that's like what makes him so interesting, is that he kind of like becomes more like the dad by the end. And that's like the whole, that's the whole summary of the journey. You know what I mean?
We got some really interesting stuff in the first chapter of House of Chains about the Unfound and how they've affected Templar culture. Because as they're riding out of the village, Sibal's children, which at first you think the people that they sacrifice to the Unfound are all dead, because that seems to be what everyone thinks happens to those kids.
To those babies.
But then they're actually Dellen Bethord's twin sister and Karsa's brother are standing over there, and they're watching them all leave. And they've all been like ritually scarred down one side of their face for whatever reason. And then the scarring makes all of their voices come out in monotone. And they're can't wait to see what happens when they return. So these are like a wild card inside because we kind of know what the Malazan Empire is going to do. We kind of know what Karsa and his army, they plan to follow Karsa. And Karsa plans to make a world of villages, whatever that means.
Right.
Probably by burning everything.
Yeah.
But what in the world are the Unfound? The Sibal's children, like they're all dedicated to her now. And forgive me if I'm wrong, isn't she dead?
Yeah, he killed
the end of House of Chains.
Yeah.
So what happens to all those kids?
Yeah. Gnarly. Yeah, exactly. No, that's nuts.
I'm very jealous of Europeans right now for the last 4 years related reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because they're going to find out first. Don't worry, I got your back. We'll find out. I think actually the Kindle one might come out at the same time. I got to look and see. Maybe not, but there's like the whole thing too, which is, well, his whole plan is to like basically end civilization, right, and like tear down the gods. He has that whole meeting too with like Shadow Throne, where they basically kind of are almost like peas in a pod, right, where they like kind of have, in some ways have like similar goals, which is to like tear the thing down and start from scratch or whatever. And it seems like that's kind of Wu's deal. And like, but Karsa's very like has a lot of contempt, I feel like, for all the gods and the pantheon and stuff like that. Like he basically gives the bird to the Crippled God many times and stuff. And like one of the things I think is going to be interesting
is that like, conversation in Toll the Hounds, where
I think in Toll the Hounds it is
acceptable levels of suffering. Who the fuck thinks that, basically?
Yeah.
It's like the end of that capstone of that conversation.
Right.
So you can argue, and I do, that Shadowthrone and Cotillion succeeded in their goal by the end of the Book of the Fallen.
Yeah.
Which was to preserve sorcery as a viable option on Wu, and then also to send the Crippled God home and stop all these other Elder Ascendants from chaining him and repeatedly using his power to keep themselves basically whatever the status quo is. So, and on top of that, you have Akarium coming in to provide a new set of warrants.
Right.
So the entire magical game board has been overthrown by the end of the Book of the Fallen. So they've accomplished their goal. So is Karsa's goal basically that, but on like a civilization level, to break whatever strictures hold the civilizations that exist?
I think so, because like I forget what that is. I think it must be in the Bonehunters, or maybe it's in Reaper's Gale, and he's attacks that. It's before he meets up with Traveler, right? And he goes and they conquer that. He's with Samar Dev, and they go into that city or whatever. And I forget the guy's name, but there's like a captain guy there. But he,
Boat Finder.
What's that?
Boat Finder, or the captain from Toll the Hounds?
maybe it's no, it was just like some random like captain guard guy, but he was talking about like civilization, and that was where he like found that, bum guy or whatever, wherever, he's like, and he just talks about how civilization, the High Fist has a great video about it, but it's like, and he's like, this is a civilized society that lets like poor people starve to death and stuff like that. And like, that's how civilized we are, versus like stuff like that would never happen in our village. So like, for me, I think the point was like, yeah, he wanted to go back to like a more basic, type of society where you can't like do these things in the name of just like, being civilized and like having haves and have nots and all that stuff, basically, instead of just like survival of the fittest kind of thing and more Darwinian, I guess. I don't know. That was always my take. I'm curious. I might be wrong, but yeah, I thought he had like kind of a tear it all down kind of.
No, because I don't disagree. I'm just trying to place it in the event. I'm not. You've stumped me as to where this event takes place.
That's because I did a terrible job of describing it.
No, I think you did fine. I just think that I've been drinking my forgetting juice, and so
yeah,
I'm not sure where that happens now.
But it's kind of like the Shadow Throne stuff in a way, because, well, at least like if you go back to the Path to Ascendancy stuff, it seems like there's definitely like a bigger goal beyond just the Crippled God ending stuff, which I think they had to basically like take, I think it was Child of Honor who said it really good the other day, but they had to basically like sort out the chaos problem and then have like, preserve the magic issue. And those were like the two big, end game kind of objectives or whatever. But it seems like in Path to Ascendancy, like he kind of wants to like conquer the entire like pantheon. Like they were always gunning for like to ascend and then like to also like figure out how all the Azath works in hopes of like being able to either control or manipulate that too, to become some kind of like alpha god or something. That was kind of the vibe I always got.
Well, they have been able to successfully manipulate the Azath to get certain results that they want. The ending of Reaper's Gale is evidence of that.
Yeah.
But whether or not they actually are able to get to the point where they control it, I don't think so. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, me neither. But I think like the whole point was not, it was kind of almost like the Lord of the Rings kind of thing where it's like, acquire the power so then you don't use it or something like that. And then it was just like, so that you could basically upend the kind of power structure, not to be like a maniacal overlord or whatever, but just to like basically, I
think it is House of Chains where they talk about seizing every throne just to sit on it.
Yeah.
And then do nothing with it.
Right. Just to like prevent other people from using it for shady purposes and stuff like that. It wasn't to like be all, super monocle and like smoking a long cigarette kind of a thing. It was more like, to like as a kind of defense mechanism so that those kinds of things can't be weaponized against just like regular people, or I don't know. It depends on whether you read Wu as a altruist, I guess. But I think kind of that's like, I always saw the parallel there, and I don't know why, with Karsa, like they seem like they both kind of have that same goal where it's like they don't like that, people are like using and abusing power structures and stuff. It's like, hey, if you're Karsa's thing is like, yeah, if you're big and you're a badass, then you should just kick people's ass, and and that's how you would do it or whatever. And so,
well, it's like whether or not I agree with the end goal, the mindset seems incredibly naive.
Right.
Like, as long as there have been structures, there have been people, whether or not they're Tis or Jaghut or what have you, that are going to take advantage of that structure for personal gain.
Right.
Now, whether or not their personal gain is justified is a completely different question. But people take advantage of structures for personal gain all the time.
Right.
And it's whether or not they see their goal as beneficial to everybody, or whether or not they see it as selfish to anybody is a different question.
Right.
But to be like, well, if we can make sure that no one else can take advantage of these structures, they're going to find a way around that.
Yeah, totally. And like, I think it's going to be a Karsa education, honestly. You know what I mean? Because he had a lot of like contempt for the gods and like saw them as kind of being that like monocle wearing, like, you know, plotting, scheming, super shady, using their own followers for, and, you know, and I think he was kind of looking past one of the things that's like kind of a foundational thing in the Malazan stuff, which is like the kind of reciprocal, like the two-way relationship with gods and followers and stuff like that, because now he's going to be like elevated to god status. Basically, that's like the whole name of the book, right? Is like the god is not willing, and I think, you know, he's going to have to learn and change that. Like, you know, I think people are going to probably do, you know, weaponize him you know what I mean, like against stuff that is going to be against his will, and he's going to be like, oh shit, like I've given, you know, all these gods and I've been so militant against, you know, wiping out all these people and stuff, and then he's going to get kind of a taste of what it's like to be on the other end of that, and maybe see, you know, empathize with some of these maniacal gods.
So Karsa, who doesn't allow any god to use him, right? Which is basically his entire journey, is him refusing to allow a god to use him. And even then, the only time he really steps in is out of compassion with Munich and before he goes to fulfill his word against Fanger.
Right.
So he holds these gods in contempt for a lot, like Mael. Malik Rel, being a Jhistal priest, was able to use the connection to Mael to do a lot of
shady
incredibly
stuff.
fucked up things. And so he holds that sort of thing in contempt.
Yep.
So what does it mean when, just like he's becoming a warren of himself, he blesses somebody and then they turn around and they don't do something that he agrees with? What's going to happen there?
Totally.
That is a interesting. Yes, I hope I see something like that. That would be very cool.
Yeah, or like, what if people can access his warren, then they're using him to, like, you know, unleash crazy shit that he doesn't like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just like, that will be a super, it'll just be like a total, he'll be the us of the Book of the Fallen, kind of. That's like what I kind of think, you know, where you are the one who's like, oh my God, the bad guy, you know, isn't the bad guy's the good guy kind of thing, or I'm the bad guy or whatever, but like he'll be kind of he'll be having that kind of thing go on. I don't know. It'll be really interesting because he's got his kids too, right? That are going to obviously feature. The dog might be there. You never know.
Right, because he has 2 full-blooded Teblor daughters.
Yeah.
From the first village in chapter 1 of House of Chains.
When they're going to the lake or whatever, to Silver Lake and all that.
But what about the girl from Silver Lake? Because remember, he gets captured and then he escapes and drinks blood oil and then goes on a second rampage through the town. Yeah. And one of the things he does is he feeds like some woman there blood oil. And, you know, that happens.
Yeah.
So is there another piece of progeny we don't know about?
I think so because there's it said something about his first daughters. So, you know, I think there's, that implies other daughters. You know, so yeah, he's got like a whole thing, you know. So they definitely have to come back, right? They're definitely going to be in there. The other one, which you already brought up, is Ublala, right? Like he's got to show up. I wonder if he's going to be, well, and it's really interesting because, so, you know, in the prologue that he put up on his website, which if you know, I guess don't want to know what the prologue said, but you can go read it. I'll put the link down there again. But like the moral of the story is that there's like, you know, he's become revered by this time, you know what I mean? And it's like, he's like legendary status. And so the prologue is all about his home Teblor, basically, and they're all talking about the like aftermath. There's some like crazy environmental stuff happening there, and there's this dude who's like from one of the low-lying clan, like the Rathid clan or something like that. It was one of the ones that's like down closer to where the children live and whatever. But he went and liberated like all the Teblor that like were enslaved down in that human town where Silgar and all them were. And then they've all like kind of rebelled. Yeah.
The Sunid clan was taken over by Silgar.
Yeah.
And his people. The Rathid is the first clan that they go through, and they run across that hunting party.
Oh yeah, no, that's what it is. It's that guy. And he's like the one. So this guy,
it's the kid. It's the kid who escaped.
It's the kid.
Yes.
So he goes
I
down.
I have that written down right there. Yes.
So yeah, he goes and like liberates, and then it's like, now what do they do? And so he's like trying to like unite the tribes. But I have a feeling like that's kind of, the vibe that I kind of get is that they're gonna kind of like go off and start doing like their own thing, and he's gonna be like the god of these people, but they're gonna kind of like maybe go off the rails or something, or because they basically want to go on a vengeance quest now because they're pissed off for having been enslaved. So now they're like, let's ride, and they're going into Genabacchus to just straight up do work, and that's like basically the whole thing.
I can't necessarily say they're wrong for feeling that way.
Totally. Well, and what's going to be interesting too is because like Karsa said, that he doesn't really have beef with the Malazans, and like Genabacchus is mostly, Malazan, except for Coral, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like all the major, except for Darujistan, I guess too, but a lot of the major stuff has already been conquered. So, there's going to be a friction there, right? Because he says he doesn't have beef, but then all of his people are like, we're ready to rock and roll. So,
well, here's the thing: is that Silgar was Nathi, and though his city was basically under Malazan rule, he basically did what he wanted anyway through bribery and corruption.
Yeah,
because you see Captain Kindly's squad, Ebron, and all those guys, they were not fine with what Silgar was doing. They were going to take him to prison.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like, there's interesting discussions there. But also, when you're the Malazan Empire and an army of freaking giants who are resistant to magic show up and just start fucking up your cities, what do?
Yeah.
You allow them to continue fucking up your cities? No. You send the 25th Malazan army or whatever number they're on now.
Yeah, totally.
With enough Moranth munitions to blow up a mountain. And you say, deal with that problem.
Totally. And so then that's what chapter 1 is, as you go into the Malazan side of it, and they're basically mobilizing to move north to like freaking fortify this like border, basically, where there's all these like gnarly rogue Teblor going buck wild. And so it's just gonna be nuts. Oh, and one of the cool things that I just thought was hilarious is that they call like, the initial raid when he goes in there with Baroth and Delim, initially into this town, when they first get captured or whatever, that's like become known as, I think he called it like the Idiot's Raid or something like that, where it was like 3 dumbass Teblor thought they could conquer an entire like city.
They came pretty close.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's pretty hilarious.
They came pretty damn close. If it wasn't for Ebron being under house arrest, they would have continued. He would have kept on escaping repeatedly until they were able to actually pin him down.
Totally.
So, I mean, was it foolish? Yes, but
yeah, it just goes, and that's like a constant trope with them, it seems like, where they're always like making fun of the history, you know what I mean? It's like, and then what actually happened, and then like what people think happened, and they're like never match up, and that's always super funny.
Yes, but in all seriousness, our if hood was a primary swear word among the Malazans, does that mean Iskar is going to become a primary swear word among the Malazans now that the Gate of Death is basically ruled by Iskar Jarak? Now,
Every swear in the first two things is an Iskar swear word. It was so epically dope to read. One of them was Iskar's limp. Iskar's limp, man, that's freaking gnarly.
because of the knee,
because of
the bad leg.
Dude.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's like my new favorite cuss word now, which is gonna be pretty epic. So yeah, like I mean that's gonna feature, right? Like obviously people are gonna be dying, so we're gonna get to see, you know, some of that bridge burner goodness too, just by default, you gotta think.
So if like big deal deaths for like important people,
Yeah,
like who would show up to personally escort their soul to the gates,
yeah.
does that mean you're gonna get like a bridge burner based
Totally.
off of what they did in life?
Talk comes rolling
so
up
like,
and he's like, "What up, dogs?"
Yeah, and he's like, if you get Talk, then you've done something right?
Yeah,
because Talk's good people. But if you get Detorin,
and she just drags you by the scruff of your neck.
What did you do? What did you do to have Detorin show up? Or what happens if you die and the first thing you see is Trot's filed teeth being like, "Hey,
dude, yeah,
come on."
I know it's gonna be nuts. And the
now,
other one,
now I really want to know, why don't I have Facebook to ask these questions?
you're better off, honestly. Facebook is a cancer, really is.
But I don't know how you can give an entire website an astrological sign, but you know, I guess it's better than being a Taurus.
It is. It's metastasizing too. It's gnarly. but that's a whole collab in and of itself. But the other one, so he's still in Darujistan, right? So you know, his buddy is like old school, one of his like first homies that wasn't a Teblor is also in Darujistan. So like maybe we'll get some more Torvald Nom action in
right
in the book.
He's become a counselor,
right?
In Lord Separate Throne. He's like a councilman at that point.
Yeah, because they're like, you know, you had to take the family's like thing up, mantle up, or whatever.
Because Rallick wasn't going to do it.
Right.
Will we get more Rallick?
Because he's awake now and he's married, right? Mm-hmm. Or he's at least like dating his boss. There's like definitely like hostile work environment type issues. I think. I think they got married or well, they were definitely hooked up, right? But him and Vorkin are together, I think.
Right. That's in Orb Scepter Throne as well.
I think that's in Orb Scepter and Throne too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I will be interested to find out what happens there.
I'm reading that right now, actually, and it's a lot of fun. All the Darujistan stuff is always super fun for some reason. I think it's because it was like in Gardens of the Moon, so you're just like always like kind of a sucker for it. You know what I mean? Because it's an early days thing.
Do you think Marathol and Solara have maybe had any kids at this point?
Oh, dang. That's nuts. Yeah. And I wonder.
They have baby Char.
They did. Yeah.
So how old is baby Char at this point?
Yeah, maybe baby Char becomes a bridge burner, joins the army or something and does something stupid, because it's probably like 10, 15 years or something after the end of the Crippled God, I think they said. So, and that baby was already born by the end. So,
yeah. So, okay. Let's see who else is still around.
The bridge burners are still there's.
If we get to see Harlow, I will be very happy.
Yeah, that will be cool.
I would like to see what happens with Harlow if we get any of that. Let's see.
Yeah, because maybe him and Stani are just living the dream now, or
right. And Fiddler quit and became a fisher after the Book of the Fallen. So I think he's done, just like Akarium's done. We're not going to see any more from Akarium. Yeah. We're going to have ripples of his actions, but we're not going to get any more of Akarium
Right.
or Mappo.
Yeah.
Uh,
Spindle shows up in the first chapter and he re-enlists and he's like the sergeant of the squad that's going north against these people.
Whoa, okay, just like as a sapper.
No, he's just like a straight up squad sergeant, and like some people don't even believe. They're like, it's become a rumor, like, oh, he's supposedly the last bridge burner and stuff, but he wasn't like a famous one or whatever. So that's all bullshit, you know. And like,
did he have a hair shirt?
He still has a hair shirt, still totally rocking the hair shirt. And he's like kind of respected, but no one wants to go close to him because he stinks. So it's like it's still kind of same vibes, you know. So
okay, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand not wanting to go hang out with someone who wears their grandmother's hair as a shirt.
Yeah. And so like that's kind of what I think is like you're gonna have like the juxtaposition of like this, like the kid who's leading the Teblor army, and they're gonna kind of go a little bit, you know, nutty, and then you're gonna have like kind of the Ublala side of Karsa's army that's more like kind of wants to do, you know, follow orders or fulfill the wishes of the god or whatever, instead of just like having their own agenda. So it's gonna be nuts. I don't know. And he's not even supposed to show up. Oh, and they do say that he's just chilling in Darujistan, and like his followers go up there and try and like worship him, and he beats the shit out of them. And then more followers try and come because of that, because they're like, oh, that's epic, bro. And like
it's like the you know, the storytelling trope of the curmudgeonly master swordsmanship or whatever, who whenever a student shows up and it's like, teach me, he just whoops the crap out of them, and they're like, I don't want to be learned by him anymore, and they leave.
Yeah.
So like maybe he gets like these weird orders of Carcinian monks who show up and just to get beat up by him, to be like, I have not continued to learn. Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna get beat up again, and they just get beat up over and over and over again.
It's kind of like Ivaner and Stonewielder does that too. He doesn't beat anybody up, but he's just a pacifist, and he's just like, yeah, bro, leave me alone. And like the more people he says just leave me alone, then like the more people follow him. It's like Forrest Gump, you know what I mean? And more people just start running behind him, and he like doesn't even do anything. And they're just like, yeah, we're gonna follow you, bro.
I was just running.
Yeah,
leave me alone to run.
Exactly. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. Krupp's gonna be there, you know. Krupp's gonna show up if you're on Ginabakis and Darujistan. Are you a Krupp fan, by the way? Because he's a like divisive Malazan figure.
In Gardens of the Moon, I thought it was funny the first time, and then Memories of Ice came around, and I was like, well, somebody hit this dude with a hammer.
Yeah.
And then someone tried to hit him with a hammer, and it didn't go the way I expected that to go, and I was like,
Yeah.
Then when he shows up in the Bonehunters, I was like, oh, okay, I think I kind of get him now. And so on rereads, I've just been trying to figure out what is his game plan.
Yeah.
Basically, is his game plan that he has no plan and he just wants to continue to eat pastries until he dies, and so he's willing to do anything to keep the pastries coming?
Yeah.
Like if he gave his dream away to the Maibi or the Mahaib,
yeah,
in Memories of Ice, which is kind of what's implied there, is that ability just gone for him to have, you know, his own dream realm when he goes to sleep? It seems like he just showed up at the Azath house one day to bully Perrin into going to Seven Cities, and then like and other I think, doesn't he show up in Torrent's dream at one point at the end of?
Oh yeah,
and like talks to him for just a couple seconds and then leaves.
I think so.
So I
such an obscure piece of knowledge. Yeah, totally.
What is he doing? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, what's the well, it's impossible to know what motivates him, you know what I mean? Unless like he does seem like just kind of like he's almost like an Azath himself, you know what I mean? Like he's just seeking like balance or whatever, and like, or like is kind of like altruistic in a way, or he's just kind of like, you know, he's kind of like a Shadow Throne in that way, where it's like you don't know if he's just like, you know, super genius three-dimensional chess so mapped out, or if he's just like kind of roll with the punches, like improviser, you know what I mean, and just able to kind of work, be nimble on his feet kind of thing, and work, or if it was like grand strategy kind of thing. So they're smart, it's like, but you never know if it's like a plan or if it's just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna kind of like ride the currents, and I'm gonna, it's going there, so we're gonna like kind of nudge and
Well, I don't know. That's the thing is,
yeah,
even now I'm not sure. It's
totally.
like he could be a master planner, but he certainly doesn't come across that way.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's like what would make it nuts is like, because like it does seem just in the Gardens of the Moon stuff, you know what I mean? Like he definitely was like quarterbacking basically all of those events as the eel and all those stupid notes and blah, blah, blah that he was doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and his discussions with Baruch,
yeah,
like
classic, so meta and hilarious, right?
Yeah, he's like 3 layers into the conversation to see if Baruch catches on. And then sometimes it really does appear he gets caught flat-footed.
Yeah,
but
totally.
But he still ends up somehow coming out on top, even when he does get caught flat-footed. So,
yeah, because then he's like, of course, no, because I'm just a dumbass. Oh, of course, you know what I mean? Like, and like just kind of rolls with it. I know that's what, because he's like the inception of like, he's like 7 layers down in the inception or whatever, and it's like you just like,
it's like surely would not hold this against foolish Creppa.
Yeah. Which, do you think Ganos is going to show up because he's master of the deck, and like, if Karsa's a god, then you would presumably think there's going to be some
now
house.
that may be a house he is unwilling to sanction.
Right. Yeah.
Now, that would be interesting because he was willing to sanction the House of the Crippled God.
Yep.
But Karsa, oh boy, I don't know if he'd be willing to sanction that house.
Well, and they never have a willing god. You know what I mean? Because all the other gods were like already like, yo, I want to be a god. I want to be the head of that house. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. What if the like god themselves is like, I'm good.
So does this mean we're going to get more of the Redeemer?
Possibly. I don't know.
He's active on Kharkanas.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'd be interested to see what happens there.
That's definitely still out there for sure.
Okay, what else? What else is still a loose hanging thread? Ooh, Shyke Reborn. Or not Shyke Reborn.
No, Fellis and Younger.
Yeah, Fellis and Younger.
Yeah.
New Shyke.
Yeah, new Shyke. Yeah, because she's basically just went, at the end. What was the other guy? The third. It wasn't. It was Leoman, Korab, and then the other guy. Mathok, yeah, who goes with her, right? And then he bails eventually because she's like just kind of becomes, she reverts back to the original.
Very, very hedonistic though, because original Shyke. Then not Felice and Shyke Reborn. She was all about revolution and attacking things and burning things and biding her time in the wilderness to become stronger. And then Shyke Reborn was all about trying to destroy the Malazan Empire because she was mad at her sister.
Right.
And then when she becomes declared the new Shyke, she's declared the new Shyke under the aegis of the House of Chains. And they're talking about celebrating like brokenness and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she's celebrating brokenness by people's vices because she begins to eat to excess and smoke durang and engage in these odd orgies with her followers, because that's about filling a hole inside oneself with external things to make yourself feel better. And that's celebrated in the House of Chains under us because it's still a form of being broken.
Right.
And they basically left these people to just sit there fester. So what's going on there? because they had no plans to make war on anyone.
Right. Yeah. They
Right?
were just.
They were just planning on indulging themselves until they died.
Yeah.
So, what's
Yeah.
up with that?
Well,
That's
and
what I would like to see something done with.
she kind of becomes like the original Felicen, right? Where like what she was in Skull Cup, which is just like, right. But like what's interesting, so she goes back. That's what I mean. It's like it's a full circle, right? Where she just goes right back. But then like, you know, the bigger thing is what's up with the House of Chains now, right? Because the Crippled God is gone, right? So it's like, does Karsa become the god of the whole? Did they take over that house, or what's the deal with that? Like, what happens when that, you know, because like Fenner's died or whatever, Fenner's gone, and now it's like, you know, just there's only, you know, there was nothing of that cult. There's no, you know, mortal sword of that or anything. So it's just like,
right. But in the realm of war, the beast took precedence,
right?
Because Tog and Fanderay ended up taking over, and then Treach tried to stop Kalava opening up the gates from Bauchelain, and that happened.
Yeah.
So Tog and Fanderay took over the thrones of war, basically.
Yeah.
In that pantheon.
But in a totally different war. And so like Karsa could maybe do that with himself as a or
right. So, but the House of Chains was using a kind of sort of a pocket dimension that the Crippled God made. You know, the island where he was on his tent,
totally
breathing in smoke and all of that.
Yeah.
That was his realm.
Yeah.
And that was his only place to exist, even like outside the strictures of the pain he was in.
Right.
Right. And then that got legitimized in the Deck of Dragons.
Right.
Just because the head is gone doesn't mean the realm ceases to exist, as we saw what happened with Coral Demerlon.
Totally.
Coral Demerlon got splintered asunder, and each little piece became
still
something else.
Yeah.
So the House of Chains still has a throne, and the throne can still be sat upon by someone who's willing to take it over. So that is,
that's nuts. And those people were still chained to him, you know, like Karsa's whole thing with chains wasn't just chains from chaos and all that. Like all the people that he killed, right, were like connected to him through the chains too.
Well, he got rid of a lot of those at the end of Reap with Gale.
Yeah.
Because they used all the souls in Samardeb's knife, and then all the other souls that were chained to Karsa also made the bridge from the real world to the realm where the Crippled God was, so that Karsa could again face Rulad and stop him from picking up the sword a second time, or however many times it had been for Rulad at that point.
Yeah.
So they had to have those souls to bridge across chaos in order to get there, because they didn't have another way through.
Right.
So a lot of those souls that Karsa was dragging around with him, they're gone. They were eaten by chaos as a sacrifice for him to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So are all of them gone? I don't think so. But
who knows?
A lot of them are.
Oh, you know, another person that's nuts who shows up is Daelus, who's the
she had Baroth's child in her womb.
Yeah.
In chapter 1 of House of Chains.
She's called Widowed Daelus now. Which is pretty nuts.
Well, they never actually got married, right? Or were they married when?
No, I guess not. But she still is called, probably because she had his kid or whatever. But so
I'd like to know what happened to that kid.
It's gonna be fun stuff.
We'll find out.
Be exciting.
I'm ready.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's gonna be July for the Bantam, and I think November for the tour. But you can order the Bantam in America from that Monroe's, which he does his signed copies through. So, and I got the Kindle, so I'm gonna do that. I got the Epic Inscription. I ordered 2 copies from Monroe's because I'm gonna keep the tour for myself, and then I'm gonna give the Bantam away. But I got the same inscription in both, which is gonna be epic.
Pew pew
pew pew pew. to Iskar. Pew pew pew. So yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I really can't wait. I'm so ready for more stuff.
Me too. And it'll be like a nice little thing to tide us over and give us more stuff to nerd out about while we wait for Walk in Shadow. And actually your coverage so far of the Kharkanas stuff is epic. Are you guys going to go and do the Fall of Light too, or was that just the one
Yes.
Kharkan? Okay, good.
Yes, we kind of touched on Fall of Light a little bit, but
Yeah.
I want to do another one on Fall of Light, and we will, I think, at the end of this month or the beginning of next month.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, because it was kind of general Kharkanas, but it was mostly Forge of Darkness. So that has me pumped because that one is epic. That one was super long, but I literally watched every single minute of it and it was so bomb. So I'll link to that one down below too. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, bro. This was a lot of fun. It's already been an hour and I feel like we could just go on and on. And Terry even showed up. How epic was that?
My voice doesn't hurt at all from doing that. Just in case you were wondering.
Good.
Oh yeah, but are you gonna read Stormfront anytime soon?
What's Stormfront?
Dresden books.
Oh, the Dresden books. Somebody's everyone. You told me that. Raph told me to do it, and Mike from Mike's Book Reviews all told me to do it. So I'm thinking about picking them up. Everybody says they're short and easy to read too. So
yeah, you can read them in like a day and a half. Like they're not that long. Okay. They're really not that long. And,
yeah, I'm juggling House of Chains and
popcorn.
What's that?
I said they're popcorn.
Oh, they're popcorn. Yeah, good. It's actually
really good popcorn, but they're popcorn.
Yeah, good. Awesome. No, because I need something like that to mix in because I'm going back and forth between House of Chains and Orb, Scepter, and Throne right now. So it'd probably be good to mix in something that was a little I think both of those are like 800 pages or something like that. So
yeah, Orb, Scepter, Throne ain't short, and neither is House of Chains. So
yeah, so no, it's good stuff. I'm enjoying House of Chains more than I thought I would. That's why it's again perfect timing to bring you on to talk about Karsa and all the other Jenna Bacchus shenanigans. So yeah, no, that was bomb. Did we leave anything critical out? I don't want to just. I'm sure you have better stuff to do. I could sit here all night, but
well, right now the only better thing I have to do is sleep.
Yeah,
which is actually sounding tempting right now. I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. So
I know it's been a heck of a day. So. Well, hey, thanks again. I'm going to link to Cal's channel. Make sure you go show that some love. I'm going to link to the Kharkanas video. What else? Oh, I'll link to the prologue and I'll link to the chapter 1 from Erikson's thing. And I'll put the link to the Q&A also that he did the other day, all of which had great spoilery goodness. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, go join all the Discords, show the love, and we'll see you on the next one.
I'll be here. Oh yeah, auf Wiedersehen.